Okay, hello and welcome to this webinar. My name is Don Parker. I'm the academic course leader for graphic design. I'm going to go through this presentation, hopefully around about the 40-minute mark, if you can bear with me, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. So, why study graphic design at the University of Gloucestershire? In terms of a course and the university, let's position ourselves in the university first. So the University of Gloucestershire has 180 years experience in teaching and education, and we have undergraduate, postgraduate and research programs. I'll put a sort of bookmark in there at the moment. That's where we are also looking to have a Masters in Design starting in September of next year, just as a bookmark. We're getting that ready for people to view shortly. We have 10,000 students and 10% are international and 1,200 staff. And in terms of personal experience, we're first in the UK for international student support. We can talk more about that and we can follow that up later on questions if you need to. We have staff with industry experience. I myself, as course leader, have been a graphic designer all of my life and worked across a lot of media, including film, television, the music industry, and we have colleagues that are branding and packaging designers as well. We had a recent £5 million investment to improve facilities and the student experience, especially in regards to the help zone. At a top 10 UK modern university and affordable fees with up to 50% scholarships available. I do have that information available, but bear with me, it's not my area of expertise. If you ask the question, I'll have to look it up, I'm afraid. And then the employability, 95% of graduates in employment or further study within 6 months, a figure we're very proud of here. Location, if you're domestic, hopefully you know where we are. We're sort of ish in the middle of Britain. And if you're international, we're sort of in the middle-ish of Britain as well. Communication and travel times, we're 2 hours from London on the train or actually driving, and we have airports very close to us on major motorways throughout the UK. The Cotswolds. The Cotswolds is an area of outstanding natural beauty, and that means it's an area that captures a lot of what you'd understand from Britain in terms of that image there. There are sprawling hills and very beautiful little cottages. It is quite lovely, and also your surrounding area of Cheltenham has that feel to it. Another part of what we have located within Cheltenham itself are the Cheltenham Festivals. Cheltenham Festivals are a company that have several festivals throughout the year, jazz, music. There's a science festival. We're also looking at a design festival as well, and those, or literature as well, across the year. So there's always something going on. We also have a day at the races. We have Cheltenham is very famous for the Cheltenham Gold Cup and horse racing in general. That's important for two reasons. One, you understand sort of the context in which Cheltenham sits as a part of the British way of life, and also for students, often they get a lot of work during these times around the festivals of racing. This is the only institution I know that has a racing week as well. Cheltenham turns into a totally different place. It was quite exciting for that week, and students do enjoy that as well. Cheese rolling, this is a bizarre thing. If you are a domestic student, you'll know a little bit more about this than international students. Cheeses come in big, I don't know what you call them, I don't know what the term is, like a ball or a roll, like a car tire if you've ever seen one, but obviously we're not the hole in the middle. They roll these cheeses down a hill and some crazy people decide to chase them. And it's one of those things that you have to see once in your life, if not twice, to believe it's actually happening. So quite a strange community, but a wonderful and diverse community, I think, is one of the reasons that we've got that in there. Local history, many castles and stately homes in the area, Suley Castle being one of them, with some of the reenactments from history put on at those places. Cotswolds Water Park, I've been there, I know what it's like. It's rather fabulous and quite surreal in terms of that you can stay there for a weekend or overnight, and you kind of feel like you're on a kind of Cotswold lagoon, which is a very wonderful experience, and also slightly, like I said, surreal. Cheltenham town itself is a regency town. I often get this wrong. It's not Georgian as Bath would be, but it's very much regency, built in the time of the Prince Regent, and therefore quite unique architecturally in Britain and in fact the world. Some of the parts of it are stunning and quite beautiful to walk through. I think looking at the bottom image there, that looks like up near what we call Montpellier, and the area around there is where some of the festivals are held, and I know that very well because that's my walk home. And this is the spa town, and by that we mean it's the Cheltenham spa town, built in a similar way to Bath, where people came to take the waters, and because of their supposed healing powers. And around that was really the innovation of Cheltenham and how it's built. This is the pump rooms where the original spa was, and somewhere we actually use sometimes for conferences as well. The left-hand structure is a bandstand. There's still several of those in Cheltenham, which I think is rather lovely. These are actual images of Cheltenham itself, shopping and eating and coffee houses. It is really a lovely place to spend some time. The cathedral, Gloucester Cathedral, is down the road in Gloucester. That's about 20 minutes, half an hour away. And that's quite famous for being in some of the Harry Potter movies with J.K. Rowling coming from this part of the world. And I know that very well because I went to school with her. So that was quite interesting. Her trajectory has been slightly different to mine. Gloucester Docks is again in Gloucester itself, no surprises, and a lovely area to visit for shopping and entertainment as well. So, without further ado, let's talk about graphic design here in Cheltenham, and particularly what we call the design studios. Reason being that we have our own building, which is rather fabulous and we love very much, and we're quite protective of it, I must admit. This is the course, which is all about students. Very important. It's student focused, it's professionally focused. It is a professional course about moving from where you have an aspiration to be a designer, moving through that 3 years into having that skill set and mindset of being a designer once you graduate. So the bald gentleman there is actually me, just so you know what I look like. I'm definitely not a student. We also have degree shows every year, which is very important to us. And the students construct and deliver that for the university with our support. That is the 2016 degree show you're looking at there. And one of the outcomes of that, if you see, it says, "But every memory that we made makes it all worth it," is something that the university has taken to its heart and has been part of their promotion of the university since then. So we actually affect change in the university through what we do on a daily basis. And many of the students have gone on to work. Okay, 4 things here: the creative industries, creative futures, creative education, and change the world. They're parts of what we believe to be the core of what we do. We're in the creative industries in the UK. That is an actual recognised part of our industries in the UK. And we are responsible for, I think it's £6.6 million a day's worth of GP, domestic, I can't remember the words, domestic output for the university, for the country. Meaning that in terms of industry, we're one of the largest in the UK for employment. Creative futures. From that, we look at where we're going next, not know where we are now, but where we're going as a course and in the context of the creative industries. And creative education, we're passionate about. And changing the world. We put change in the world because a lot of people don't realise that designers from the UK are very key in how we're changing the world and how people interact with it. One of the examples from the UK that seems to be quite well, not well known, is the Jonathan Ives from Apple. And Jonathan Ives is an industrial and product designer who creates and designs most of the Apple products that you use, if not all of them, and increasingly works with the iOS and OS for Apple. So if you've got any one of those products there, you're working on something that was designed by a British designer. There are a range of institutions in the UK and abroad, and they're all different. And we're different in Cheltenham. The reason for that is that when you look at any curriculum that is given by a higher education institution, a university, that is developed internally and by the university. It's not something that is given to us by, say, the government to run. We actually work to craft modules within the constraints of what we are allowed to do, but every university has a different approach. So do look carefully about how those modules are written. We also are different at Cheltenham because we focus primarily on the professionalism with research at the back, as a kind of spine to that, rather than the other way around. Sometimes you'll find other courses are much more research led. What is graphic design? Graphic design is quite hard to define. If you Google it, it's got many, many different things. If you want to understand where we're at with how we've built out from these ideas, which I'm just going to go on to, you can look at the modules online. If you go onto our website, you can see the course map. And if you look at the course map, that gives you the outline of those things, those modules, sorry, things. So, graphic design. Paul Rand is a giant of the 20th century design, very famous for working on IBM's identity. And we kind of use what he says as an important sort of mantra. And he says, I have two goals. The first is that everything I do as a designer must have an idea. It cannot just look good. And the second is it has to look good. And I think that really is our philosophy of the course and what we believe to be important, that the idea is the primary driver, and then how it is designed and crafted is secondary. But then at the same time, they have to work together at all times. So that's kind of our starting for what we believe. Student work, for example, that comes out of that sort of mantra is the idea that we have the connected to. This is a piece of work by a student who was coming out of the forces and had done a lot of tours of duty across the world, and he wanted to, rather than have a sort of negative outcome, develop his design work to be positive in the future. So drop shadows, not bombs. A drop shadow is that strange part of design where you have this kind of horrible kind of grey thing underneath a piece of type, which we don't really like on the whole. But he used that wordplay and then started to understand how he could make people aware of these kind of connotations. And he went on to greater things, possibly away from where he began. And that's the point of his work there. We have students that did journalism, not journalism, but working with editorial design and journalists. So they created their own newspaper and we supported that. We have people doing, obviously, record covers, book covers, their own identities, their own way of doing calligraphy, and also packaging and branding, user experience design, web work. In this instance, this is a piece of work designed by two students that took the idea of black paper. Now, Fred Dragoni wanted to promote their black paper range. Most of us, I think, would take a black piece of paper and a white pencil and write on it, please buy this piece of paper. Not these two students. They decided that they would look at the blackness of the paper. And then from that, they decided, well, where is the darkest place on the planet? And from that, they found it was the Marianas Trench, which is a deep sort of ocean valley. And from that, they thought, okay, let's explore that. Top right, they have like a booklet where they looked at the fauna and flora of the trench and explored that. They also, through their research, found that there was a bathoscope that went down into that trench, set out by the Americans to map it. And from that mapping, they had a topographic map of the trench, which is the box on the right, or the interior of the box. And from that, they put that image together of the bathoscope, folded that up, then made the booklet. That went in the box, and the lid went on the box with the coordinates of the Marianas Trench, where all these things happened. And then they handed that in. And that is a very good example of what our work should be. It's surprising and beautiful, but also the idea behind it is better than the original starting point. And that's what we look for in our students at all times. So what do we deliver? How do we deliver it? What do we deliver? We deliver a broad curriculum where we look at all aspects of design. If you came into the course, you'd look at the fundamentals of visual language, you'd look at how you'd work in the sort of basic Adobe suite of Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator. You'd move on to discuss ideas about visual culture, professional practice, where we have a work experience option in the second year. And then from there, you move into developing your own work around a thesis and how you can become a creative entrepreneur. You do your own self-initiated work, promote yourself, take on creative awards, and then exit after 3 years. So as you can set from the sound of that, there's quite a lot going on, but also I think it's very exciting. How do we deliver it? We deliver in modules over the year. So you would do approximately 3 modules a semester, 2 semesters in a year, over 3 years. And it's that mix of time that you would have supported. Now, in terms of supported study, it's roughly 12 to 14 hours a week of delivery, and then independent study from there, and moving on to that transition from being at school into being a professional. And that's what we embed within the program. And as we spoke about Paul Rand, ideas and skills are where we're at, and mindsets and skill sets emerge from that thinking. And I think this statement says quite a lot here. Graphic designers produce ideas in order to communicate. We're part of the communications industry, and these things are what make communication work. We have to make sure that we sell the idea, and the success of your work depends on those ideas and the skills in which you execute them. That's the bread and butter, as they say, of our industry. Course structure, I think I've touched on briefly. We teach every day. That doesn't mean that you get the same teacher every day. It doesn't mean that we all teach all on every day. It means there's a blend of people that you work with, full-time and part-time staff, as well as what we call visiting lecturers, which I can come on to later. And the working day is a 9:15 to about a 5:15, and you can be in every day. The studios are open for you to use. It's a progressive course. We're always looking at change. At the moment, we're exploring ways to move the course on all the time rather than once in a blue moon. So we're looking to evolve on a constant level to match what is happening with our work placements and the industry itself. This is why when we enter industry awards that we hopefully win them, because we're hopefully at the cutting edge of what we do. Now, if you want to look at that on screen at any time, I'm sure you could probably pause this video rather than me talking against it. But there are 3 levels: level 4, level 5, and level 6. And as you can see, it's developing from a blend of ways of delivery through into professional practice and then getting ready for industry. Contact time, as I mentioned earlier, includes lectures, art direction, workshops, group and individual tutorials, visiting lecture program, which we think is one of the best in Britain. We consider ourselves in the top 5 design courses in Britain for graphic design, and we have support for that through staffing and technical work that we have delivered into the program. And also that the building that we work in is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you need it. Additional resources: we work with printmaking, with screen printing, letterpress, bookbinding. The library has an extensive library of design books, one of the best, and I always judge a university by its library. Go and have a look at the library, it's always worth doing. Technical workshops as well, where we have laser cutting, construction facilities. We've started to buy in new pieces of equipment that we explore and play around with. We're looking at the Internet of Things coming up as well, which is an exciting avenue for graphic design to move into rapidly. Student awards. Over the years, we've worked with D&AD, which used to stand for Design and Art Directors. Their website is very much worth your time looking at if you want to get a flavour of what graphic design is about. And we enter that every year as part of our Creative Awards module. Penguin Book Awards. Star Pack we won this year, I do believe. YCN, RSA, sorry, they came in to speak to us a few weeks ago. and we look to entering those every year. And on the whole, and we need to update that slide, that we've won again a few of those this year as well. So more of those available as we update our website. Trips. We do London trips on a regular basis. For instance, we are taking the students in February to agencies in London, where each year goes to a design agency and has that experience for a day to understand where they'll be working in the future, rather than it being an abstract conversation. We also do a Berlin trip once a year, and we're off to see the Bauhaus in Berlin in January, which I think there's a slide on later. We also help run the Saturday Design Academy, which is about young people engaging in design at an early stage of their life as we move them through the creative industries. And that gives the opportunities for some of our students who wish to be teachers, for example, in design, to start experiencing that at an early stage of their development. Live briefs. Predominantly, we work on live briefs. Once you come through the first part of the first year into the second year, we give award briefs and we get live briefs from industry. For example, recently we worked with a company called Superdry on a t-shirt campaign that has now become part of the ambassadors branding that you'll see across the university if you came on an open day. If you see those t-shirts, they're blue with a big orange kind of crest on them. That was designed by our students, and they got to work at the studios of Superdry to execute that. A fantastic piece of work and a great experience for the two students that kind of won that opportunity. Visiting lecture program, we run that regularly. In fact, what we're doing very soon is an event where we get in about 9 agencies, and then they meet with the students in a very rapid sort of folio surgery environment. And then we have a social evening where they all come and talk to the real people in the real industry about how they might fit in with that. And from that often come work placement opportunities. Excellent industry contacts. I mean, through hopefully this webinar, you can hear that what we're about is very much the industry. Cheltenham itself is very fortunate to have in the region of 50 design companies within commuting distance of it, and they work with us constantly to refresh the program. This slide shows a couple of things that support the idea of trips. Top 3 slides are from our trip to the Bauhaus in January of this year. A large agency, a small agency, and the right-hand image is actually a staircase in one of the buildings that is related to the Bauhaus. And if you want to know what the Bauhaus is, it's the bottom middle image. It's the birthplace of modern design teaching, and a lot of the philosophies that we still adhere to generated out of that school in Weimar. On the left, we had last year's 3rd year going to a company called JKR in London when we visited them for a day, talking about how they could progress their careers. And on the right-hand side, that's a screen printer that we visited in Berlin in January, just to give you some of the flavour of some of the trips that we are quite passionate about doing. Festivals, as I mentioned earlier: design, science, jazz, literature, and of course the racing. And as I always say on this slide, that's a horse, and on the right, that's a designer. And the person on the right is a guy called Stefan Sagmeister, as he came over to the design festival in the last couple of years and is a great supporter of what we do. His career is fascinating if you want to look into the way he works. He's kind of one of these design superstars, as they call them. And he takes, every 6 years, he closes the studio for a year to something totally different and then restarts his career again. So, that's a great lifestyle that we all aspire to. Pastoral care. I think what I can say about this is it's fairly unique that the personal tutor scheme that the University of Gloucestershire supports is one of the great parts of what we do. That means that each student has a personal tutor, and that personal tutor is someone that they see 3 times in their first year and 2 times a year in their second and third year as an undergraduate. And that's someone that they can link into and check that they're okay at any stage. Are Are you okay? Is one of those big questions, especially for an undergraduate. And with that, we support that academically in the course. And then if you need any further support, we've got the help zone, which is just, believe me, a fantastic resource for students and staff. And we, as a course, support that wholeheartedly. Admissions. What do you need? If you're a domestic student, you go through UCAS, and the points are 112 points for domestic students. I urge you to go and look at the UCAS site for that, because they've just reinvented it, and there's a system there where you can really start to play with the numbers and understand what you need. Go there, and they've even got a little microsite that allows you to understand it a lot more. Internationally, we look at how you come in via APL, so we look at your previous learning and where you're at on that, and we try to understand where you're going next. And the requirements for international are available on our website. So go there and have a look at what we expect from you. This course specifically asks for a portfolio to view and interview. We interview every student. That sometimes is quite tricky if you're in another country, but we're more than comfortable with Skype and things like that. And we're more than happy to look at PDFs, online and electronic work. That's something, we are in the 21st century, and hopefully you are too when it comes to design. We do like that. Although I will say that we enjoy print an awful lot on the course. So please don't see this as only a digital experience. What you need in a portfolio. We've got some top tips for a portfolio. And so it's only include work you're proud of and want to talk about. Don't bring every piece of work you've ever done. Please edit and consider the presentation of your finished pieces. This is just if you're walking in the door and you pull it out your back pocket. It doesn't show an awful lot of respect for what you consider to be your best work. So beautiful presentation is always appreciated. Development work. That means, how did you get to where you got to? It doesn't all have to be graphic design work. It can be photography. It can be things like that. This is a course where you don't need to draw. We are not an illustration course. If you want to be a drafts person and you want to be an illustrator, do a degree in illustration. We are about concepts. We draw what we call like thumbnails or little scamps, as they call them in advertising. They're little, just, it's about communicating with drawing to get an idea across. It's not about being Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was Leonardo da Vinci. We're trying to get to a point where we're communicating an idea, and that can be done in a myriad of ways. And drawing isn't the top of that list. So when it comes to recent sketchbooks, for example, one of our students, he's a great advocate of collage. So a lot of collage work, cutting out things, sticking them down. As long as it's communicating, we're great with that. Include work which demonstrates your enthusiasm and knowledge of the subject. That's what we're really looking for at interview. It's more a conversation. And what we're trying to understand is, are you passionate about design? And will this sustain you for 3 years whilst you do a lot of work that's outputs of design work? So stuff is what we tend to say. We do stuff. Don't include all your coursework. And if a guardian, parent or significant other says, oh, I like that piece of work, and you don't put it in. And especially if your teacher says you must. If you're not comfortable with it, don't put it in, because it demonstrates who you are, not anybody else. And remember to demonstrate a range of skills. People do tend to over-fixate on drawing when we're actually more interested sometimes in photography or something like that. Photography is an interesting one. Often graphic designers, they don't have any people in their photos. They'll be of objects and type and things like that. And that's usually a good indication of where you're at with your thinking. And just remember, it's always a conversation. So our course proposition, great ideas, beautifully executed, is where we start from at all times with the course. That's what we're about. Now, in terms of that, I'll be asking for questions online in a moment. What I will do is make sure that I move to this slide and make sure you can see that the contacts are available. Rebecca Smith, who's the Regional Manager and Study Abroad Coordinator, if you have those kind of questions and any specific questions about the course. There are my details there for contact on email. Also, if you can see that you've got the Study With Us links at the bottom of the page there. So that's my presentation, and what I will do now is move on to any questions we've got on the chat. I'll read them out if that's okay with everybody, and then try to answer them verbally. I won't key in. So we've got someone asking here, what kind of careers have graduates gone on to, and where are they now? We track students over a period of 2 years with some data to understand where they go. And at the moment, about 70% of our students land industry jobs after graduation. We have them working at local, national and international agencies. For example, we've got students currently at a company called Taxi in Bristol who are coming to see us next week. And most of them are at Cheltenham agencies such as Celador, and they come to us and ask us how we start to work with them on internships. So we help those students. Sorry, the next question is, do you help students secure those jobs? No, we don't. We do facilitate conversations, but we don't secure the jobs for them. That's a key part of the course in terms of your own personal development. We are there to enable that, but we don't engineer those relationships in a way that you would expect on some courses. It's a way of you developing those relationships. Why at the core of what we do is how we engage with industry throughout your 3 years. You will know these people over 3 years, and you'll know a large part of the industry locally and internationally. For example, we've got London agencies coming to us next week, and one of our alumni who has been working in London for many years, they're just about to move to San Francisco. So now our alumni are extending across the globe, and we'll be working with them. Well, we've got another question here. Is there a placement year option? We do not do a placement year. However, we do have the opportunity for students to study abroad in the second year of their degree, minimum of 3 months, and it's usually in the second part of their second year. We've got links, for example, with Canada at the moment, and we're dealing, that's a very strange word. We're working there very closely. In fact, I'm going out there in January to see how things are progressing. But we don't have a placement year, but we do have work opportunities. Work placement is an important part of what we do. But we have to be very clear that it's not an internship. It's about experiencing design. So they shadow people, they go in, they experience the environment, which takes pressure off the student and also off the companies that we work with rather than any demands upon their time. Got another question here. Are employment skills included in the course, e.g. pitching and interview skills? Yeah, we run a module called Professional Practice in the second year, which is very much about those skills. So, for example, that module runs across the year. The first part of the year is very much about developing those skills in a soft environment, and then experiencing work placement in the second part of their second year, where they can start to explore those with companies that we know and trust. And then I've got a reply there that says, "This sounds awesome." Yes, it's pretty good. We like that. It's a great part of the course. It is interesting to know all the students want to do it, and when they actually do it, they do find it quite an eye opener, because what we're doing is turning the mirror on you. I think that's one of the things that I'd say about this course is very much about, it's focused about your development. Let's see if we've got any more questions here. I'm just waiting on those. Okay, got another question here. What is the class size and international student makeup? I think it reflects the university's numbers that we were looking at earlier. About 10% of the course is around about the development of the relationship, between international and domestic. On the course, we have, I think, quite a large cohort of international students, very much embedded in what we call our community of graphic design here. And I think they have a really good experience of it all the way around. I really enjoy, actually, personally, the international students' experience coming in, and so do the other domestic students. And the class sizes, for example, we have a cap on us at about 55 to 60 students. in 1 year, and from that's where we have more than one lecturer in a space at any one time. So we make sure that we get to see everybody outside of lecture time. We're also available if you came into the building. Our offices are inside the building, at the top of the building. So if we want to run out and grab a sandwich, it's quite difficult to run the gauntlet of students without having a conversation with them, or they're coming to sit with us during our lunch break, which they like to do. So we're pretty much here. Can we live on campus is another question. There are halls of residence available in and around the campus. So we're at Francis Close Hall. The nearest part of it is just over the road near Hardwick, and their Park campus, for example, also has halls of residence on site. We're also extending that. If you look at the Pittville campus that's coming, residents that are coming on streams shortly, they are rather fabulous, and I'm quite envious of them actually. I think they look gorgeous. Yeah, so we definitely have that halls of residence approach to the university, and not all universities have that. Okay, I think that's the last question we've got for now. So if there's any further questions or you want to contact us again with that information on screen, contact Rebecca or myself. Rebecca in terms of the international and regional support, myself if it's specific about graphic design. It would be great to hear from you. So with that, I think that's enough from me, and I'll speak to you hopefully again if you want to speak to me. So thanks very much.